Okay, everybody, I'm going to do the best that I can with this video situation because what I have done before is giving me some issues. So, question 1, this is 6.567.1. This is your video worksheet that we're doing together. A construction crew is lengthening a road that originally measured 53 miles. The crew is adding 1 mile to the road each day. The length L in miles after D days of construction is given by the following. L equals 53 plus D. Okay, so here is my equation. I don't have to go looking for my equation. So all I have to do, since I have the equation, is plug in the known number of days, which is 14 days, okay, right here, 14 days, into the D. So it's going to be 53 plus 14 is the length, and 53 plus 14 is 67. So the length of the road is now 67 after 14 days of work. And let's see if I can get that a little better. So this is number 2, which tells us for each graph below, state whether it represents a function. So the first thing we need to do is know what a function is. So right here, we have some help on functions. So what is a function, which is a movie on Khan Academy, is very helpful. It's 7 minutes long if you would like to watch a more thorough explanation of what a function is. But we can say briefly that a function is some expression or equation that has an input and an output where every x, which is the input, has only one y, which is the output. So every x can have only one y. That means that a function will pass the vertical line test. So basically, I've made a shape like a parabola here, and you can see that if I pass a vertical line through every part of that parabola, each vertical line only crosses the parabola once. So there's no point on top on a function above another point. So every function passes the vertical line test. Now, if it is a equation or expression that does not pass the vertical line test, then we would say that is a relation. There's a relationship. Okay, we could have an input and a relation and an output, and then it would not be subject to this rule that every x could have only one y. So when we look over here, we would see that this one, now we have to make sure that there's never a point above another point. Now you look in graph 1 where it's coming along, and then there's a hole in this portion which jumps up to a solid there. So that's not a problem. And it goes on, and then there's a hole, and it jumps up to a solid point and a solid point. But nowhere is there a point above another existing point. Therefore, I could draw a vertical line through every part of the graph and never cut the graph at more than one point. So we would say, yes, this one is a function. So we go look at number 2. And we can see right away that 2 is not a function because even just one line cuts that figure twice. So this would be no, not a function. Now, even a set of points can be a function if there is no one point above another. No, there's no more than one point on each vertical line. So this would be yes, it is a function. It is not a continuous function, but it is a function. And this is like my example that I had over there, the little parabola shape. This is a function because I can pass an infinite number of lines through here vertically and never cut the function more than once. So this would be a yes. This is a no, because when I draw a vertical line, it is cutting the relation twice instead of once. This is a no. So that's a no. This is a no, because in one spot, there's 3 points on a single vertical line. Oops, that was supposed to be a no. My bad. Okay, no, no, yes, yes on the first one, no, yes. Okay, for number 3, this one I showed you in class today. Find the x-intercept and the y-intercept of this line. Now this line is not in slope-intercept form, which is the one we are used to dealing with. This line is in standard form. Something x plus something y equals a constant, okay? The easiest thing to do with this line is to find the x and y-intercepts if you want to graph it. So to find the x-intercept, we let y be 0. So you can just cover up the y because it's 0, and you get 2x equals 8. So here we write 2x equals 8 because we covered up the y, we let it be 0. Which when we divide by 2 and divide by 2 on both sides, we get x equals 4. So the x-intercept is 4, or we could say the x-intercept is 4, 0, because wasn't the y equal to 0? The y-intercept is what we get when we let the x be 0. So let's come over here and cover up the x term. And we get y equals 8. Y equals 8, y equals 8, and since the x is 0, it would be 0, 8, if we wrote it as a point. So there you have it. So now let's go ahead and put those on a graph. 4, 0, and 0, 8, maybe up there. And so if I were going to graph the line, I could just go between the x and y-intercepts to get a very good graph of the line. Okay, so this one is easy because all we have to do is put the answer in, because they've already given us the equation. Austin tutors chemistry. For each hour that he tutors, he earns $20. His earnings, E, in dollars after tutoring for H hours is given by the following. E equals 20H. How much does Austin earn if he tutors for 3 hours? So H is hours. So we're just going to put 3 right here in place of the H. So we have 20 times 3, and Austin earned $60. So $60, because 20 times 3 is $60. Okay, let's look at question 5. Find the y-intercept and the x-intercept of the line. Again, this line is in standard form. 6x minus 7y equals a constant. To find the y-intercept, we let x be 0. So let x be 0. And then to find the x-intercept, we let y be 0. Okay, so y-intercept, let x be 0. Cover the x up because we're letting it be 0. Negative 7y equals negative 42. Okay, because we covered that up. Negative 7y equals negative 42. Can we just divide both sides by a negative 7? And we get y equals 6. So the intercept is y equals 6. So here's the work. We covered up the 6x because x was 0. We got negative 7y equals negative 42. We divided by negative 7. We divided by negative 7. Y equals 6. Y equals 6 is the y-intercept. If we were going to write it as a point, remember that the x is 0. So we would have 0, 6. That's all there is to it. So now to find the x-intercept, we let y be 0. So we're going to cover up the y part of the equation. And that's going to take care of that minus sign too. So we'll cover the whole thing up. 6x equals negative 42. 6x equals negative 42 because this negative is taken out with the y, which is 0. 6x equals negative 42. Divide by 6, divide by 6. X equals negative 7. X equals negative 7. That was a weird x. Or we can write negative 7, 0. Because at the x-intercept, the y is 0. Okay? So let's go on to question 6. Okay, it takes 31 pounds of seed to completely plant a 4-acre field. How many acres can be planted per pound of seed? A color printer prints 9 pages in 5 minutes. How many pages does it print per minute? If necessary, round your answers to the nearest hundredth. Okay, if it takes 31 pounds of seed to completely plant a 4-acre field, 31 pounds, we'll just use LB, per 4 acres. Okay, then it says how many acres can be planted by 1 pound of seed. That per pound is 1 pound. So what we want is 1 pound is going to give me X acres. Now I can set this up as a proportion. They give me the first part, 31 pounds of seed to completely plant 4 acres. Okay, how many acres, so this is the question mark, I'm going to put an X there, can be planted per pound of seed. So a single pound of seed is going to go for how many acres. So here we have our proportion. We could do this one of 2 ways. We could divide this by 31 to get 1, which means we would divide the 4 by 31 to get the X. So 4 divided by 31 is X. Okay, that's one of the ways to do it. So that would be acres. So 4 over 31 acres. Now they tell us that we're going to have to do this in hundredths. So we've got a little bit more work to do there. Okay, the other way to do it is to cross multiply. Anytime we have a proportion, which is a fraction equal to another fraction, we cross multiply to get the answer, which means we would say 31 times X equals 1 times 4. We're trying to find out what X is. So we divide by 31 on both sides, and we get 4 over 31, which is exactly what we got before. Since they told us to put it into decimals, we would take 4 divided by 31 and put a little decimal and a 0 there. And we would say that's going to go in 1 time. 1 times 31 is 31. That's going to give us a 9 and a 0. And 31 into 90 is going to go not quite 3 times. So that would be 2. And 2 times 31 would be 62, which we would subtract and get 28. And then we would bring down the 0. Okay. And 31 into 280, let's say 3 times 9 would be 27. So let's go 9. Okay, now I only need that number to know whether I'm going to round up that number. So 0.13 would be the answer to this one. So 0.13 would be the answer to A. Okay, so now it says a color printer prints 9 pages in 5 minutes. How many pages does it print per minute? Okay, so 9 pages per 5 minutes. Okay, so now I want just 1 minute. 1 minute. So I could divide by 1. I can set it up this way. Divide by 5, excuse me, because I want 1 there. So 9/5 of a page. Okay, so 9/5. What is 9/5 if you make it into a fraction? So basically, I just said 9 pages in 5 minutes, divided by 5 because I wanted how many in 1 minute. So 9/5 of a page, and 9/5, 9 divided by 5 is 1 whole and 4/5 left over. And 4/5 is 0.8, so 1.8 would be the answer. 1.8 pages per minute. Okay, everyone, here, number 7. Deborah pays $24.64 for 6.4 gallons of gas. Find the unit price in dollars per gallon. So the unit price would be what 1 gallon of gas cost. If necessary, round your answer to the nearest tenth. So if you have $24.64 per 6.4 gallons, and you want the price per 1 gallon, which is what they mean by the unit price in dollars. Okay, so unit price is dollars per 1 gallon. So here I set this one up like a proportion. I'm just trying to show you different ways that you can do these. I set it up as a proportion, so let's go ahead and use the cross product here. So 1 times $24.64 is just $24.64 equals, oops, I'm going to put the equal on this side, is equal to X times 6.4. So 6.4 times X. Okay, so there's our equation. We're trying to find the X, which is the dollars. So we're going to divide by 6.4 and divide the other side by 6.4. So we end up with X equals this right here. So we want 24.64 divided by 6.4. 24.64 divided by 6.4. Okay, so now remember, when I have a decimal in my divisor, I must move this over 1 and this one over 1 to get my decimal in the right space in my answer. 64 into 246. Well, let's just look. 6 goes into 24 4 times, but 4 is not going to go 4 times into 16. So let's go ahead and just put 3. Okay, so 3 times 4 is 12. Carry the 1. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1 is 19. Then when we subtract, we get 4 and 5. 54. We bring down the other 4. Okay, so 6 goes into 54 9 times, but the 4 wouldn't go in. So let's put an 8. Okay, 8 times 4 is 32. Carry the 3. 8 times 6 is 48, 49, 50, 51. Okay, and we're left with 32. Okay, now 32 is exactly half of 64, so I know this next one is going to be a 5. Okay, if we went ahead, we would make this 320 because we'd bring down another 0, and 64 would go into 325 times. So our answer, because they tell us to bring this to the nearest cent, and this 5 is even, right, is $3.85. Okay, so the answer here would be $3.85 because the nearest cent would be 2 decimal places. And that is your answer for number 7. Number 8, there are 5 green apples and 8 red apples in a basket. what is the ratio of all the apples in the basket to the green apples? So all the apples in the basket are 13. So 13 to green apples is 5. 13 to 5 would be the ratio of all apples to the green apples. Okay? And then what is the ratio of all apples to the red apples? So it would be 13 to 8. Okay, so when we're looking for all the apples, we have to put the red and the green together in the basket. Okay, so this is a little bit about ratios, which we have done pretty extensively in the past. But write the following ratio using 2 other notations, 5 to 3. Well, we know we use the colon, 5 to 3 would be one way you could write it. You can always write it as a fraction, 5 to 3. So those would be your 3 most common notations for ratios. Write the ratio as a fraction in simplest form with whole numbers in the numerator and the denominator. So 4 to 32, because they tell us to write as a fraction, but then we have to simplify it to lowest terms. So we're going to divide by 4 on both the top and the bottom. So divide by 4, and we get 1 over 8. Okay, so 1/8 is the fraction that they wanted. But we could also write it 1 to 8 or 1 to 8 if we were not told to write it as a fraction, which we were. And hopefully you will hopefully you have followed the whole video through and you have got all those answers. And now you have 10 more problems to do to finish up your homework. And on Wednesday, we will have a quiz over 6.5 and 7.1. So be ready for that. And don't forget to do your con a little bit each night so it's not so big on the weekend. This is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.